It's your first earnings report as a public company, and I want to start with the big earnings beat, this after the year of the torpedo, as you called it. What were the main drivers?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me back on the show, Emily. The main drivers were that our model is inherently adaptable. So however travel changes, because we have millions of hosts in 100,000 cities and communities in nearly every corner of the world, however travel changes, we can adapt. And what we're seeing is people are staying longer. They're getting in cars, they're traveling nearby. And that's the kind of travel that people want with Airbnb. They're also telling us they miss travel. But the kind of travel people miss is not business travel. And it's not like standing in line to see a landmark. What they miss are spending time with family and friends. And staying in a home and being hosted is really a great way to do that. So I think that explains some of the recovery.
Now, shares have been a little muted since results came out, which is a little surprising given this big beat. Do you have any sense of why that is?
I'm going to not get into the habit of commenting on why the stock price will fluctuate on a day-to-day basis. You know, I'm 39 years old, and I'm sure I'll be asked this question a lot, but we are focused on a very long journey. We think we're just in the very beginning of a huge opportunity with travel. So that will be the extent of what I'll comment on it.
Well, there was a big tech sell-off today, so perhaps that had something to do with it. Digging into the numbers, revenue was down 22% for the quarter, 30% for the year, but your competitors down way more than that. Expedia down 57%, bookings down 55%. How much do you see that competitive edge continuing post-pandemic, especially given that now is a unique time when people might be favoring vacation rentals over hotels?
Yeah, I can probably comment more on what's going to happen with Airbnb, but we know a few things to be true. The factors that were driving our recovery, we believe, will continue through the year. Again, business travel is probably not going to recover, but leisure travel will. We are a predominantly leisure travel business. People probably won't be crossing borders right away or going to big urban centers. They're probably going to be getting in cars and traveling to small communities nearby. That is really the concentration of Airbnb. Now, in a world of Zoom, people can work from home, and they're realizing they can work from any home. And so you're going to start to see more and more longer stays on Airbnb as well. So we think all the reasons why people loved Airbnb, those reasons will continue, in addition to new use cases that I think people keep discovering to use Airbnb from COVID and beyond.
Now, on the forecast, you say year-over-year comparisons are going to be volatile and unreliable. But give us some color on what you see in the year ahead. When do we see a real bounce back? Compare the first half to the second half or something.
Well, anyone that was in the business of predicting the future last year would have probably gone out of business. So I'm going to try to not predict too much about the future. We do believe the travel rebound is coming. The reason why is because people tell us, we did a travel survey of American travelers, and they said that travel is the out-of-home activity they miss the most. The majority of people we polled, including people that make median or below median income, do plan to travel this year. And they plan to travel when it's safe to do so. And what it's safe to do so is a subjective feeling that people will probably determine on a very personal basis. So here's what we know. We do believe a travel rebound is coming. We think it's going to be a very big rebound. We don't know exactly when, but I've told my team better to be early than late. So we want to assume the best case scenario that it comes back early, and we'll be ready as soon as it is.
So how is the company preparing for that demand increase?
Yeah, 4 things we're doing. The first thing is we've just done a really big, we launched this week a really big brand campaign called Made Possible by Host. We don't do a lot of marketing anymore. We haven't done a brand campaign in over 5 years, but we felt like now was the perfect time. People want a message of hope, but also we wanted to make an investment in the brand of hosting so that more people want to be host and more people want to stay with host. Next, we need to recruit more hosts. If the rebound is as big as people think it could be, we need to make sure we have enough hosts to prepare. Third, we want to simplify our app, and we're changing our product. We're changing the paradigm of how you book an Airbnb, because before you had to type in a destination or a date. Now, 40% of the time, guests say they don't have a destination in mind or a location in mind. So we're designing Airbnb for new flexibility. And fourth, we're going to work on improving our customer service to deliver world-class service. So those are the 4 things we're doing. You know, really just doing a great brand campaign, recruiting hosts, simplifying the app, and providing world-class service. We do those things, and I think we'll not only be ready for the travel rebound, but probably ready sooner than any other travel company.
Now, most of the growth is coming right now from North America, from regional travel, and less so in Europe, where we see stricter lockdowns. How do you see international travel returning? When does that bounce back?
Yeah, so actually, the way it cuts down is domestic travel is really strong pretty much almost everywhere. Domestic travel is defined by people traveling within the country. So what you see is the travel that's suppressed is cross-border travel. So countries like Italy that depend on a lot of inbound travel is not doing as well as a country like the United States or even France, where people travel a lot within their own country. So we're seeing a lot of strength in the United States, but also in other countries like Mexico and Brazil and other countries where domestic travel is vibrant. So the real question is, when does cross-border travel return? I mean, certainly I don't know the answer to that. Probably health officials will probably have a better sense, because people will cross borders and they feel safe to do so. And that probably has a lot more to do with the health crisis and vaccination rollouts.
Now, there's been a rise in professional hosts on the platform, which now I believe bring in about 30% of revenue. I've noticed this as a user, and it does sometimes change the communication process, that feeling of belonging and connection, which you've always said is so important. Do you view that at all as a risk factor to the brand, and do you see that number growing?
I mean, first of all, I don't see that number growing. Our focus is on the individual hosts, but we welcome all hosts on Airbnb. Now, 90% of our hosts on Airbnb, more than 3.6 million of our 4 million hosts, are individuals. They're everyday people. They're school teachers, artists, healthcare workers, and actually 55% of our hosts are women. A lot of people don't know that. So we think that we have an incredibly vibrant, great host community. Now, the experience is different with a professional or a hotel. So the way we think about professionals hotels is people primarily come to Airbnb because they want to find something unique and one of a kind. That is primarily delivered by individual hosts. But we don't want to have any network gaps in our network. And sometimes people are looking for a hotel or a professional hospitality provider. And so we want to make sure that a guest doesn't come to Airbnb and leave without finding something. So we're going to continue to have that balance. But our focus is primarily the individual host, because that's something that we exclusively do well, I think.
Now, you were investing in hotels before the pandemic. Where does that business go now? And do you see hotels as being important to the business going forward?
Hotels are very important to our business going forward. We're still investing in hotels. We bought Hotel Tonight, an app that I am very excited about, and it's one of the most loved travel hotel apps, booking apps in the world. We're still investing in it. But what changed is this. Last year, we lost 80% of our business in 8 weeks. We had to move very quickly. And we decided that the way we were going to manage through the crisis was with focus. And so we took our very best people, we focused them on the most important part of our business, which was the core of our business, the individual host that powered the majority of our community. So we did scale back hotels. And so hotels are scaled back as an investment. But as guests come to Airbnb and they want hotels, we can scale with that demand. And I do think hotels will be very excited to list on Airbnb, because ultimately, if a hotel has less than 50% occupancy, which most of them do, they're going to want any incremental bookings they can get. And we have a lot of travelers.
Thanks. So curious, have you been doing any traveling over the last few months? And when the world opens up, where are you anxious to go to first?
I've not done too much traveling lately. Last year, I spent, 16 hours a day in sweatpants in front of an iMac 7 days a week. It was an extremely eventful year. If it wasn't enough to manage a travel company in a pandemic, then try restructuring your business, then going public all on Zoom. So it was a pretty intense year. And then, of course, I take the responsibility as a public company CEO really seriously. But I also am very much looking forward to traveling. And where will I go? I will probably go to a national park. I think I'll just give a plug for national parks. There are, I think, 400 national parks in the United States. The average American lives within a Tangagassa National Park. Most have never visited one. But I think one of the big trends in travel is going to be people rediscovering the outdoors and national parks. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Open to suggestions on which one.